folks who entered without inspection, they go through the process, they show up to court, and they're not getting bonded. They're not even getting the opportunity.
They're not getting the opportunity to have bail right now. For the past 30 years, they've always had bail, right? Because, we've recognized you've been here a long time, you've got community ties, you're not a flight risk, right? You have contributed positively to this country and you're raising U.S. citizen children, right? So it used to be, we'll grant you bail so you can go out, right? You can continue your job, work, support your family, at the same time fight your case, right? Prove to me why you deserve to be in this country, right? That has always been the process until July 7th, July 8th, right? Things changed. There was an ICE memo telling all the ERO officers they're no longer eligible for bail, right? They are now being charged as applicants for admission, right? So when you do that, you're trying to get somebody expeditedly removed, right? If you're not eligible for bail, you're going to fight your entire case in jail. It's going to be very difficult because how are you going to get the witnesses, right? How are you going to get the evidence or the funds to continue this, especially if, let's say, you are a single mom with 3 kids, sitting in detention for 2-3 months until your case is heard without your family, without your children, is very difficult, right? And a lot of people without the resources and the determination, even if they have a viable case, they're going to give up before their case is heard, right? They're gonna. It's a practical choice, right? Do I want to sit in detention for a long time, a prolonged period of time, I don't know when, or do I want to go and, maybe in the future I can come back, or I'm going to have to figure out some way to be reunited with my children, right? And it's a hard decision.
So at this point with that shift, how much have you already seen those detentions? I mean, theoretically, it sounds like they would tick up because of this policy change. Are you seeing that displayed in your practice already?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing is ERO office, the ICE removal officers are trying to take the cases out of immigration's jurisdiction to begin with, right? So if we don't put these people in front of the judge, then there's less caseload for the judges to deal with, right? They're offering incentivized voluntary departure. They're giving people the chance to get a plane ticket home and $1,000. Apparently, if you have a U.S. contact here in the United States and you've got a valid email address, phone number, and an address, if you just sign on this dotted line and agree to be voluntarily sent to your house, once we can verify you have, landed in your country, we will deposit $1,000 to your account. So when people were first being detained, right, this is now a standard package they will offer you. Do you want to do this, or would you like to be NTA'd to go in front of the judge, right? So a lot of people will sign because it's a financial incentive and you don't have to sit in detention for a long time, right? They're turning people around in 4 or 5 days. But if you do choose to fight for your case, then, there's an uncertainty as to how long do I need to be in detention, and when do I get to see a judge, when do I get to see my family, what do I do with my car that's still parked in the parking lot, right? Absolutely, the number of people who have been detained has increased, right? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, a lot of people who are taking the incentivized voluntary departure had also increased, right? Mm-hmm. So they're being even taken out before they even get to see the judge, before they even get to talk to a lawyer.
So anybody who may hear this might think, is this due process?
Due process is a very hard question, right? In my mind, you have to understand what's going on. And we're talking about people who speak very limited English. We're talking about people who have limited education, right? And when you get people to do things either through coercion or threats or incentives. That's what they're calling it, the incentives. It creates a delusion, right? What is due process? It obviously means different things to different people, right? And ICE is going to argue, yes, they did have due process rights because we explained this to them and they voluntarily took it, right? But at the same time, we've had a client who were like, I have no idea what I was signing. I cannot read English. I do not know a single word they were telling me. They just told me to sign here, right? And at that point, I do think it's a violation of your due process rights, right? And especially then on top of it, if you're threatened with potential referral for criminal prosecution, right? People are more likely to take the easy way out.
And I think we need a point of clarity here because you said, they're being threatened with criminal prosecution. And there might be some folks who say, well, they broke immigration law. What are you saying?
Yeah, exactly. I think that is the argument, right? People who are here without status or their status had expired, right? They might have violated their status by either overstaying their visas or had engaged in unauthorized employment. All of these are violations, right? They are crimes that could be prosecuted under U.S. federal law. What I'm saying is we haven't seen these cases being prosecuted because it had never been a priority for the U.S. Attorney's Office, right? Their priority had always been going after the drug dealers, the traffickers, the child pornographies, right? So the priority has now shifted, right? And both sides will always have the argument, right? One side will say, yes, immigration is a fundamental human right, right? Immigration should always be part of life, part of human society, right? And the other side will always say, yes, but then we have a legal way of doing it and you're doing it illegally, right? So that's always been the contention. I don't have a perfect solution, right? And a lot of times people will take that incentivized voluntary departure because they realize they have done something wrong, right? They understand by either coming in undetected or violating their visa status, they had committed a crime, right? It's not like they're not remorseful. They understand 100% perfectly something they've done in the past is wrong. But the problem is immigration is not forgiving, right? Immigration is not like criminal law. Criminal law, you've committed a crime, you've convicted, you served your sentence, you served your probation, you move on, right? You're done, you move on. But immigration follows you for the rest of your life. If you entered like 20, 30 years ago, because that one thing that happened, it will impact you forever, right? Until something has been done. And comparing to if you had committed a traffic violation, you paid your fine, you move on, right? But I think that's a fundamental difference.